Good morning, students. In this video, I am going to teach you the sixth chapter of history. The name of the chapter is The Mughal Empire First. Okay, first of all, I am going to tell you who were the Mughals. The Mughals, they were the descendants. Descendants means they were the successors of the Mongols. Who were Mongols? They were from Central Asia. So Mughals were the successors of the Mongols, and they were tall, handsome and strong and brave people, and they also kept beard. You can see here they also kept beard. And the Mughals had developed the new art of warfare, that was the use of artillery. Artillery means now they started to use the tanks in their army. So that was the new art which was developed by the Mughals in their war. And with this, with the help of the tanks, they were able to establish the empire in Turkestan, northern China, and also in India. Okay, after occupying the Turkestan and northern India, they started to attack on India. Why they started to attack on India? Because India at the time was the very rich country and they wanted to plunder the wealth of India. So they started to attack on India, and finally in 1526 they were able to establish the rule in India. Okay, in 1526 AD there was a battle between the Babur and Ibrahim Lodi. Babur was the first Mughal ruler and Ibrahim Lodi, he was the last Lodi ruler. Okay, and there was the battle between Babur and Ibrahim Lodi, that was known as the Battle of Panipat, and it was fought in 1526 AD. And after this battle, Babur was able to establish the Mughal rule in India. So Mughal rule was established by Babur in 1526. And what were the reasons for the success of the Babur? And first reason for the success of the Babur, one of the main reason for the success, the use of the artillery. Okay, the use of the artillery. And this, as soon as Babur's artillery opened fire, the war elephants of Ibrahim Lodi got frightened, because the tanks, when the tanks started to open the fire, the Ibrahim Lodi, he had the elephants in his army. They started to get frightened, and they started to trample their own soldiers, and it was the main reason for the success of the Babur. The second reason for the success of the Babur was he had highly trained horsemen, and he arranged his horsemen with a good way, and it was the second reason for his success. And next, after the death of the Babur, the new ruler was Humayun. Who was Humayun? He was the son of Babur, and he became ruler two times. Firstly in 1530 to 40, and secondly he became ruler 1555 to 1556. After the death of the Babur, he became the ruler in 1530, and Babur had left behind the large empire. And the main problem before the Humayun was to make his empire consolidate. Consolidate means strong, because Babur was unable to make his empire strong. Now the Humayun had to face many difficulties when he became the ruler. First was the Afghan and the Rajput kings in India. They regarded the Mughals as foreigners. The Afghans were there in India, Rajputs were there in India before the Mughals. They regarded the Mughals as foreigners, and they wanted to drive them out of India. And second, the vast empire had not yet consolidated, because Babur, he occupied the large empire but he was unable to consolidate it. So that was the second problem before the Humayun. And third was the collection of the land revenue system, that was not regular. Okay, and that was not with the systematic way, and that was the third problem which was in front of the Humayun. And next, Humayun was very Humayun had the ambitious brothers, and they also get against the Humayun. They also wanted to get the throne, so that's why there was the battle between the Humayun and his brothers also. Humayun's wars. Humayun succeeded in conquering the provinces of Gujarat and Malwa. Humayun, he occupied the area of Gujarat and Malwa, but the real trouble which was created by the Farid. Who was Farid? He attacked the Mughal army at Chosa in 1539. In 1539, there was a battle between the Farid and Humayun, were at Chosa, and in this battle Farid was able to defeat the Humayun, and Farid became the ruler of Bengal and Bihar, and he assumed the title of Sher Shah. Sher Shah and Farid were same. Sher Shah, Farid was his real name, and Sher Shah was the title which was assumed by the Farid. He also defeated the Humayun in the Battle of Kannauj. Firstly, Farid, he defeated the Humayun in the Battle of Chosa in 1539, and secondly, there was a battle between Humayun and Farid again at Kannauj, and again Humayun was defeated by the Sher Shah, and the Mughals were completely defeated, and Sher Shah became the master of Delhi and Agra after defeating the Humayun. And now Humayun get unhappy and he went to Persia. Okay, and the Persia Shah, the king of the Persia, he welcomed the Humayun and helped the Humayun to defeat his brothers, because Humayun's brothers were also against him. And Sher Shah Suri had died in 1545, and there was a confusion after the death of the Sher Shah regarding the succession. Okay, Humayun took advantage of this opportunity, and in November 1554 AD, he again marched towards the India, because now Sher Shah died, and after the death of the Sher Shah, Humayun again he attacked on India, and he was able to conquer the areas of Lahore, Delhi and Agra. And Humayun could not live long after his success, and only after 7 months later he died in 24th January 1556. Okay, Sher Shah, who was he? He ruled in India from 1540 to 45, and he was the son of the noble Jagirdar of Jaunpur in Bihar. So Sher Shah, he was from Bihar, and his real name was Farid. Farid, he was very ambitious general, and his main aim was to drive out the Mughals from India. And he defeated the Humayun 2 times at Chosa and at Kannauj in 1539 and 1540. And after defeating the Humayun, he established the rule in India. He also issued the coins on his name. And he was a great warrior, and he died in 1545 because of the accidental explosion of gunpowder. And he was buried at Sasram in Bihar in a beautiful tomb, that is the tomb of Sher Shah, and he was buried at Sasram. Sher Shah's administration. Sher Shah was a brilliant administrator, and he made many changes in his administration. Which changes he made in the administration? First is, now he started to pay his army in cash. Before him, the salary was paid in the form of kind. Kind means in the form of grain. But now he started to pay the army in the form of cash. And second, he do the welfare work, many welfare work, like he built many roads. The road which was built by Sher Shah, that was the Grand Trunk Road. It is also known as a GT Road from Calcutta to Peshawar. He also constructed the rest houses for the people, and he introduced the gold, silver and copper coins, and he started the new postal system by using the horses. Nowadays the postmen are there, but at that time the postal system was, the horses were used in the postal system. And Sher Shah, he divided his empire in 47 provinces, and these provinces were known as the Sarkars. And each province, now states are there, but at that time the states were known as the Sarkars, and each Sarkar had 2 chief officers, and each state 2 main officers were there. The work of the first officer was to maintain the law and order in the state, and the work of the second person was to maintain the land revenue. And Sher Shah Suri, he also improved the revenue system of his area. And after the Sher Shah's death in 1545, his son became the ruler. The name of his son was Islam Shah. But he too died early young in 1554, and after his death the disorder was there in his area. And this type of disturbance, because of this disturbance, the Humayun took advantage and he again established the Mughal rule in India. And after the death of the Humayun, the next ruler was Akbar, and he became ruler in 1556 AD. I told you Humayun, he died in 1556, and at the time Akbar was at Kalanur in district Gurdaspur of Punjab. At the time when the Humayun died, at the time Akbar was in Gurdaspur and he was crowned there with a simple ceremony. When the Akbar became the ruler, he was of 13 years and 4 months old. So he was the minor king. So to help him, there was a one person, Bahram Khan. It is important who was Bahram Khan. He was the tutor and guardian of the King Akbar. Okay, because Akbar was the child at the time. So to help him, there was a person. The name of that person was Bahram Khan. And he became the regent. Regent means a person who helped to govern a kingdom if the king is minor or if the king is absent. You have to read this also. The full name of Akbar, his family name and his birthplace. This can come as an inside question answers. And next is expansion of the empire by Akbar. Akbar, he expanded his area. In 1556, the Akbar's guardian Bahram Khan defeated the Humayun. In 1556, there was the second battle of Panipat between the Akbar and the between the Akbar and Humayun, and Akbar was able to defeat the Humayun in this second battle of Panipat. And after defeating the Humayun, Akbar, he occupied the areas of Agra, Gwalior and Delhi. And in 1564, Akbar, he attacked on the Gondwana and he was able to conquer that area. And Akbar also expanded his empire by keeping the good relations with the Rajput. In 1572, he conquered the Gujarat and he also expanded his area. And Akbar next extended his empire towards the northwest of India in a series of campaigns. He conquered the areas of north and west like Kabul, Kashmir, Kandahar, Lower Sindh and eastern Balochistan. You can see in the map also. He occupied the areas of Kabul, Kandahar. These were the areas of the north and west. So he occupied many areas of, he was able to occupy the many areas of north, west. Now see the Deccan campaigns. Deccan means south. After occupying the areas of north and west, now Akbar moved towards the south. In 1519 to 1601. Students, read these lines also. Buland Darwaja. The question can come as an inside question answer. This can come as an inside question answer. Who built the Buland Darwaja? By Akbar at Fatehpur Sikri. And Akbar first he moved toward the Ahmednagar, and the kingdom was at that time in Ahmednagar. Chand Bibi was there. She was the ruler of the Ahmednagar, and Akbar was able to defeat his area and he was able to annex some areas of Ahmednagar. And in 1601, Akbar he invaded the Khandesh and captured the famous fort. Fort means Kile of Burhanpur or Asirgarh. Akbar's administration. Now, what type of administration was established by the Akbar? He was a great builder, empire builder and great administrator. And his administration saw the mixture of Indian styles and the Mughal styles. Okay. And the Akbar, he established the excellent administration, and the features of his administrations are there. First was central administration, and central, like in India, the central administration in Delhi and the states are also there. But at the time also the central administration was there, and the head of the central administration was king. Now the prime minister is there of the head of the central administration, but at the time the head of the central administration was king, and he had a council of, and to help the king there was a council of ministers. and it is expected that at the time the panchayat system was also there to look after the work of the village. And next is mansabdari system, and Akbar he introduced the mansabdari system. Underline the question can come, who introduced the mansabdari system? Akbar. And what was the meaning of mansabdari system? The literally meaning of mansab is rank. Okay, and that rank was given to the officers, and the officers who got that rank, they were known as the mansabdar. So mansab was the rank which was given to the officers, and the officers who got that rank, they were known as the mansabdars. The Mughals mansabdars were the highest paid officers. Okay, the mansabdars were the paid officers, and they got the jagir. Jagir means piece of land from the king. They got the piece of land known as jagir from the king as a salary. And what they do with this piece of land? They use the revenue of this land for their personal expenditure, and they also maintain the horses, elephants and camels for the king, for the army of the king. They also maintain the horses and animals. Next is the rank of the mansabdar was not hereditary. Hereditary means after the death of the mansabdar, his rank was taken back by the king. It was not given to his son. So rank was not hereditary. Next is army. The Akbar also maintained the army, and he was a highly trusted army directly recruited by him. He himself appointed his army, and the emperor, he had the well-trained artillery. He had in his army, the tanks were there, elephants were there, and the cavalry means horsemen were also there in his army. That was, the cavalry was also the main part of his army, and it was and at the time the naval force means the navy was also there in his army, but that was in the early stage, that was not developed. And next the officials, and in spite of the king, the other officers were there to help the king. The main officers were the Bajir and the Mir Bakshi. Underline this, the Bajir and the Mir Bakshi were the most important officers who helped the king. Who was the Bajir? He was the head of the revenue system. And who was the Mir Bakshi? He was the paymaster of the army. And Akbar, he also organized the meetings with his senior officers, and he organized these meetings in the Diwan-e-Khas. That was a building where the Akbar organized the meetings with his officers. And second place was Diwan-e-Am, where he organized the meetings with the common people. Diwan-e-Khas with the special people, with the officers where he meet, and Diwan-e-Am was the place where he meet with his people, and where he also listened the appeals and requests of his people. And next was the provincial administration, means what type of administration was found in the states. Okay, his area was divided into 15 subas or provinces, and the suba was further divided into sarkars, and each sarkar was further divided into number of parganas. What were the parganas? A group of villages made one pargana. You can see here, during the time of Akbar, his area was divided into 15 subas, and subas were divided into sarkars. Sarkars were divided into parganas. Parganas means group of villages, and then the villages were there. Now in India, the 28 states are there, districts, then Jila Parishad, then Blok Samiti, and then villages. But during the time of Akbar, this system was there. Now next, the pattern of the administration at the capital was same as in the subas. In the state center and the state, the administration was same. And the head of the suba was known as the subedar. He was the most important person in the suba. And second person was Kotwal, he was the in charge of the town administration. And what was his work? His work was to maintain the law and order in the area, and to maintain the record of the persons living in the town and its neighborhood. And he also made the record of the visitors, the foreigners. Clear? Now next is revenue system. At the time, the land was a main revenue system. That was a main source of the income of the king. And the salary was given in the form of land, and the Raja Todramal, that is important, was the in charge of the land revenue system and income from trade. The king revenue from trade was not so large, and mostly revenue came from the trade from these two states, Gujarat and Bengal. And India carried trade with the Central Asia, Persia and Russia. Means the people went to these countries to sell their goods. The traders went to these countries to sell their goods, and what they exported, what they sold in these countries: textile, indigo, saltpeter and spices. Next is literature, education and fine arts. What type of literature was there and what type of education was there at that time? Akbar, he was not a educated person and he could not write or read. So, but he was a fond of knowledge. He wanted to got the knowledge. So, many scholars were there and they read the books for the king, and the king, he heard these scholars and he got the knowledge. And the two main persons who were there at the time in the court of the Akbar, they were the Fazl and Faizi. Who was the Abul Fazl? He wrote the Akbarnama. That was the book about the life of Akbar. So that was the biography of Akbar written by Abul Fazl. They were the main persons in the court of Akbar. And the next is a part of this book, Aine-Akbari. Aine-Akbari is a part of the Akbarnama. Okay, and this book deals with the law and revenue system of the Akbar. And Faizi was the main poet during the time of the Akbar, and he wrote in Persian. And Akbar, he also got a knowledge about Ramayana and Mahabharata, and these books were translated by the Abul Fazl for the Akbar. Akbarnama, in this paragraph, there is a detailed information about the Akbarnama. Next is Hindi poetry was also there at the time. The main Hindi poets, Keshav were there, Rahim, Surdas, Tulsidas, they were the main Hindi poets. Tulsidas, he wrote the Ramcharitmanas, that is, that is a book of Hindus, and that is mostly used by the Hindus. Tansen, he was a famous musician and singer at the time of the Akbar. Tansen, that is important. Who was Tansen? He was a famous musician and singer during the time of the Akbar, and he sang many Hindustani rags like Raj Darwari and Deepak Rag. In Tansen, he introduced many features of Persian music into Indian music. So at the time, the painters were also there, and they painted the scenes of Akbar's court, Mughal court. Architecture. Akbar, he built new capital at the Fatehpur Sikri. And Akbar, he changed his capital. He built the new capital at Fatehpur Sikri, that is near Agra. And what type of buildings were there at the time? In the construction, he used the mixture of Hindu and Muslim elements. So the buildings were the mixtures of the Hindu and Muslim elements. Okay. Like arches were there in the Muslim buildings, and the Hindu pillars were there also in the buildings which were built at that time. And the material which was used to construct these buildings, that was the red sandstone. And most of the buildings have the mixture of the Indian and Persian style. The main building which was constructed at the time, that was a Fatehpur Sikri, and which was constructed with the red sandstone. And Fatehpur Sikri was the new capital of Akbar, and which these buildings are there at the Fatehpur Sikri. First is Diwan-e Khas, the Panch Mahal, Jodhavai's Palace, the Jama Masjid, Buland Darwaja, the tomb of Sheikh Salim. Now next is another examples of architecture of this time in Humayun's tomb, which has been built at New Delhi. It was built on a raised platform and has many domes and arches. The second building which was constructed during the time of Akbar, that was the Humayun's tomb, and it was built on the raised part, and the gardens are there in this building, and it has a big gateway. And next is Akbar's religious policy. Akbar, he was an enlightened emperor and he had the liberal views on religion. He respected all the religions, so he had the liberal views about all the religion. He was not against any religion. He believed in the basic unity of all the religions and respected all the religions. And he was married to the Rajput princess, and he allowed them to practice their own religion and customs at his palace. He was married to Jodha. She was the Rajput princess, and he allowed him to follow his own customs. And in 1755 AD, Akbar built Ibadat Khana at Fatehpur Sikri, his new capital, and this was a place where the emperor invited the religious scholars and teachers for discussion on religious subjects. What was the Ibadat Khana? That was the place where the Akbar invited the religious scholars and teachers for discussion on the religious subjects. Okay, he invited the teachers from all the religions like Hindu, Jain, Parsi, and even Christian scholars. They were invited in the Ibadat Khana to discuss the religious subjects. Akbar felt that all religions pointed towards one God. He thought that the main purpose of all the religions to meet with one God. He wondered why it was not possible for people following different religions to live in a peace with each other. After all the discussion, Akbar found the way out. He suggested a new religious path. After discussing the ideas of all religions, he gave a new path to the people. It was based on the common truth and rules taken from all the religions. He gave the new ideas to the people which was related to all the religions. And his new religious path was named Diwan-e-Ilahi. That was introduced in 1582. That was the religion of one God. And it was not a new religion. It was like a Sufi order. And many rulers were there at the time. They did not accept the idea of Akbar. They did not accept the Deen-e-Ilahi. That was the wish of the people to follow this religion. Next is under Deen-e-Ilahi, Akbar became the spiritual guide of his people. He discouraged the killing of animals. Now he discouraged the killing of animals and advised the people to stop eating meat at least for a few days in a year, especially on their birthday. And he himself gave up eating meat, and he disapproved of cruel punishment such a mutilation of limbs and the criminals. He also disapproved the Hindu women performing sati. He was also against the sati. An estimate of Akbar. Akbar, he died in 1600 AD after ruling India for 50 years. He ruled for 50 years and his reign was a glorious period in the history of medieval India. And Akbar ranks with the Ashokas the Great, and he was compared to the Ashoka the Great as he was one of the greatest king. And throughout his reign, Akbar followed a policy of religious tolerance. He tolerated all the religions, and he is also remembered for his administration system. And thou himself, he was an illiterate man, he was an uneducated man, but Akbar had a passionate interest in books, but he had the great interest in books. And students, I hope you all have understood this chapter. Thank you.